Today I'm going to teach you how to create a 5-number summary and a box plot using JASP. For this example, I'm using the Depicting Distributions Week 6 Excel spreadsheet that I created for our class. If you're enrolled in the class, you can get it directly from Blackboard. But if not, you can get a link to this spreadsheet from the description for this video, and you can follow along with us. What we're going to do is go to the first tab, grab the dog toys dataset, export it from Microsoft Excel, and open it up in JASP. Now, if you have been following along with this video series, you may already have a copy of the dog toys dataset in a JASP format already waiting for you on your desktop. If so, feel free to jump ahead. If not, let me show you how we're going to get this data set out of Excel and into JASP. Here we are on the first tab of this Depicting Distributions Excel spreadsheet. Here are all of the data points for the dog toys data set. We have 50 dogs who have been asked a variety of questions, including how many toys do you own and what is your favorite toy? We made note of the breed of the dog, retrievers, fuzzy dogs, and chihuahuas, their size, small, medium, and large, and as a thank you for participating, we gave them a choice of 3 different toys that they could take home. And then we kept track of how many days it took for them to chew up that gift toy. That gives us a variety of scale variables, gives us some nominal variables, and an ordinal variable in the form of dog size. But the problem that we have is that JASP will not open this data in its native format from Microsoft Excel. Therefore, we need to export into a CSV file so that JASP can open it. Here are the steps. In order to get these data points out of Excel and into JASP, we're going to start by going to File, Save As. We're going to call this Dog Toys, the name of our data set. It's going to go to the desktop, and it is going to not be an Excel workbook. Instead, we're going to change it to a comma-delimited file, or CSV. Click Save. We get a notice that we cannot save this data set, but that is because there are multiple tabs, and by default, Excel will only save the first tab, which is exactly what we want, so click OK. We get a notice about data loss. That's no big deal. The data that were lost were from these other tabs. We can simply minimize the dog toys data set, and we'll find it waiting for us right here on the desktop. So now we need to open JASP. Use whatever technique you typically use for opening an application on your computer. Get that JASP program open, and then we can get started. Here I've opened a new iteration of JASP, and to get the data set into JASP, I'm going to go to the main menu, click Open, Computer, Desktop, and click. Dog Toys is waiting for me right there. We can see that it is active, which means that JASP can read this data set, and I'm going to click Open. That brings the data into my JASP program where it can be saved. In fact, let's do that now. I'm going to go to the main menu, choose Save As, Computer, Desktop. It'll save as Dog Toys. Click Save. Now I have Dog Toys saved as its own data set in JASP format. Any additional analyses that I do with this data set will therefore be saved in the data set. I'll have the raw data and I'll have all the completed analyses. If you've skipped ahead to this point because you already had the Dog Toys data set saved on your desktop, then you're ready to begin. You haven't missed anything. We simply imported that data set, so now we're all on the same page. Let's get started with those box plots and 5-number summary. For this analysis, we're going to use the Descriptives menu, which we'll find here in the upper left. Click once to open the Descriptive Statistics menu. We're going to use the variable Toys Owned, which I click on and then use this triangle in between the boxes to move it into the variables box. The progressive disclosure of JASP will give you the immediate results just from moving this variable into its box. So we have things like how many scores, 50, the mean, the standard deviation, the minimum, and the maximum. These are some data points we're actually going to need a little bit later, but for now we want to begin by creating a plot. We are going to use the customizable plots option, in which we will find an option for box plots. So to create a box plot, you simply click on the box plot and it is created for us. We will identify that there is an outlier in this data. It is the value of 20. There are some other outliers, but they're not extreme outliers. These two values right here. Most of the data points are contained within this box. The median is this darker line right here. This is the lower quartile, the upper quartile. This is the minimum, and although this is the maximum, this would be the maximum. It's actually the median times 1.5 the width of this box. All right, now we have our box plot. Now getting the initial box plot is great, but let me show you a few of the other options that are available to us using JASP. For instance, we could add some elements to this box plot, including one called a violin element. This gives us a shape of the distribution of the data. The jitter element creates dots that might be more easily seen if I dismissed the violin element. These are the actual data points, but instead of being in one straight line, they've been jittered or moved off center so we can see how they relate to one another. Now we can really see why this is an outlier. Right now, the box plot by default is gray. With many of the charts, we have options for changing the color of the chart. I don't think that we have that option with the box plot, and in fact, it doesn't look like we do. There's the change color palette. Well, maybe that will allow us to use different colors. There we go. So if you want to change the color, click on Use Color Palette. I've said several times that there is an outlier. If you want to make sure of that, click on Label Outliers, and there it is. Let's get rid of that color palette for now. And here is the extreme outlier. It's case number 26. If I wanted to find that case, I could go over here and Show Data, and scroll down to case number 26. Here it's referring to the values in this column. You'll notice that the values like 14 matches up with dog 114. That may or may not be the case depending on how your random identifier is working. But here's the case for 26, dog number 126, and it has for toys owned, we see the outlier value of 20. I am going to now hide the data and go back to the descriptive statistics results. Well, that's the box plot, but what about the 5-number summary? For that, we're going to need to use the statistics pane. To open the statistics pane, we twirl down that disclosure triangle, and we see the options for what is available. We have quite a bit available for this example, but there's only specific things that we're going to need and some other things that we won't need. So let's start by selecting the settings that are appropriate for our 5-number summary. 5-number summary is all about quartiles, so let's click on quartiles. Notice those have now been added. They're labeled as 25th percentile. That's the same as the first quartile. 75th percentile is the third quartile, and the 50th percentile, not only the second quartile, but also the same as the median. In fact, we can confirm that by clicking on the median and clicking off for the mean. All right, there's our median. It's a median of 5, same as the 50th percentile. We really don't need that twice, so I'm going to deselect the median. We also need the minimum and maximum values, which were already given to us by default. Now we have the minimum, the maximum, and all 3 quartiles that we're going to need for our 5-number summary. So far, we've been looking at one variable in totality. But what if we wanted to subdivide that variable, such as looking at these box plots based upon the breed of dog? we're going to create 3 box plots, 1 for each of the dog breeds. We'll also do that for our 5-number summary. In order to create the multiple box plots, we're going to want to split this variable. The variable that we're using, scroll up a little bit, is toys owned. And we want to split it by dog breed. That means we're going to move dog breed into the split box. Scroll down a little bit over here. Let me take out some of the customizable options. Leave the outliers. I'll take those out as well. All right. Now we have a 5-number summary for Chihuahua, Fuzzy Dog, and Retriever. Minimum, maximum, the quartiles. And we have 3 side-by-side box plots, each showing us the distribution for the 3 breeds of dogs. Now you know how to create box plots and a 5-number summary for a single variable. And you also know how to split those box plots by a categorical variable. This is going to be very useful for us as we are looking at the distributions of our variables, and it's also going to help with some of our homework. I hope that you can see how easy this is to do using JASP.